Hi there, this is Matthew Littler, and this is
William Stevens.
And this is podcast MW Music Podcast. We're pretty much doing this to express our views over however long we'll end up doing this. I don't know, depends how long it lasts. On our views on both classic music, or classic, what we class as classic songs,
From
the alternative genre, plus the decay of a lot of music in today's culture, pretty much.
Yes, this is our attempt at trying to salvage what's left,
and pretty much just highlight our gems, what we
like a freedom fighter in this battle.
The freedom fighter against the Black Veil Brides.
And
I'm just going to insult so much music in this.
And the emo scene bands like Yumi at 6 and All Time Low.
I've seen Yumi at 6 live. I couldn't do it recorded, but they put a good show on, as I say. But
again, if we were standing, you'd be kicked in the crotch right now.
Shut the fuck up. But yeah, that's what this is going to be, and this is volume 1, really. This is going to be our introduction, going over things.
This is album 1. We need to
album 1.
It needs to be related to like comics volume 1, because it's like do you think this is gonna be album 1?
This is album 1. This is our debut self-titled album.
Self-titled release. The first. So
it's going to be poorly recorded, but it's going to be the best lyrical content that you're going to get.
Like black metal, then. Okay, that's a joke for people who listen to black metal there. But anyway, so yes, track 1 is What Is Happening. What is happening?
Not a lot, really. There's same bands that are always coming out. They're releasing new albums, which we love. Bands.
Yes, John Styles' last album was probably one of the best. Well, probably.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I do need to get around to that. I bought you it for Christmas.
House of Bones, Volume 1.
When does number 2 come out for anyone who... Oh, if you remember, anyway.
I think October time, maybe July, between July and October, I don't know. Yes, around that time, but yeah, great album. But the death of what's happening is there's no new bands coming out. There's very rare, and the bands that we do like seem to be falling apart at the seams.
I think that it is a problem with the music industry, and is the fact that we're going through hard times as a country, as a world, that pretty much record labels are trying to sign as much as they can to promote it to a not good quality, but will sell at least for an album or two to get money.
I think the main problem is today with a lot of things coming out. It's not the music, which it's the image. It's the image over music. And that's what you get in right now. It's just started out in other genres, started out in pop music, in hip hop, and it slowly but surely reached the shores of alternative rock and metal and punk
music. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And the hip hop's got its crunk, which is pretty much just make.
Well, Man Little John, but he was like the first one who did it, and it's kind of like
it's just make some money and.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much the way it is, and you listen, and it's how basically this emo and scene kid thing grew out of, and it's no, I wouldn't say that necessarily pop punk. There's a lot of metal bands which are included in there. Bring Me the Horizon.
I'm a fan of the new stuff. I'm not a fan of original Bring Me the Horizon, as I say.
Black Veil Brides,
which I despise. I've actually seen live. I was hoping as a band they would prove me wrong live, and they were just as bad.
And now this one makes me shudder, just barely whispering it. Enter Shikari.
I'm seeing them.
See, you're not really helping. We created this podcast for a reason.
It's a discussion of music at the end of the day. It's a discussion
of music. All right, well,
because everyone can have an opinion. If anyone who listened to the last one, there's a girl that keeps chipping her 2 cents in. What was it that you just said?
You don't have to say All Time Low, no.
And All Time Low, which he's seeing, which is.
But that one is.
He has a girlfriend here. It's under the thumbprint.
That one's under protest, and it's just because I said I would, because I've dragged it to that many.
So this is band, Fall Out Boy are the same. Avenged Sevenfold. These there's just these bad, and it's just there's nothing new. They either link on to something which has already been done 1,000 times, or they do something so generic that it makes you feel sick.
Yeah, it's just. I also think a lot of the times it's not music, because the music, as you say, the music sounds good a lot of the time because it's been done before. It's been tried and tested.
I give you.
Vocals are a lot of the time the problem with any sort of music. Vocals play a huge part because they're the most predominant thing in the song at the end of the day.
I'll give you a few different examples of what I mean, okay? So latching onto a sound, okay? Avenged Sevenfold decided to ditch their roots of metal.
The metalcore from Sound of the Seven Trumpets.
They basically thought, okay, what's our favourite band? Guns N' Roses.
That was one song.
No, there's loads. There's loads of songs. Which
examples, except for like Seize the Day. Except that one.
Seize the Day, which is the one in that. There's the ones that sound like... they all sound the same to me, Avenged Sevenfold songs. But the whole range, like there's something that sounds like... just sound Guns N' Roses. And you hear it, it's like the guitars... Oh, they're trying to rip off Slash.
Oh yeah, I agree with the guitar solos for me. Everything, all the guitar solos sound the same. He's talented, but needs to get a different sound.
But granted, Slash is amazing. Probably the best, one of the best guitarists there's ever been. But stop bumming him. Create your own sound. And for me, they latch onto the Guns N' Roses sound. And to be honest, I love Guns N' Roses, so it's not a bad sound to listen to. But when you're trying to find something where you're trying to find some bit of ingenuity, you're not going to get it with Avenged Sevenfold, because they just sound so much like they're trying to.
I haven't listened to the last 2 albums, which is Nightmare is. Maybe one album, Nightmare. I ain't listened to Nightmare, but apparently it was a good album.
In each album I've given, since people said, "Oh, this is the best thing you've ever, one of the best metal albums you've ever." I've given it a go, so I can't. And you've known this. I've given them a go. I got into them. Okay, so another example of sounding generic, and this is a lot of bands out there: Paramore, U-Music, all that type of stuff. Or they'll just like the same old teen bop love story type thing. That they all every song seems to be about. So you left me, I don't need you, and I'll survive.
I do agree. Up to, as I say, I don't usually have a problem with the lyrics. Do become a problem, but I think also there's just a generic sound these days that, and if you do this sound, this way of doing things, you'll be successful, and then it just oversaturates the market.
You've got to do the guitar riff that you can do the unified Buster jump into.
That's just Dragon Force.
This even is it's just this whole formulaic. There's nothing new, nothing that excites you, and it's like when you pick up trying to think of a good when you pick up a Lamb of God sound, you know you're listening to Lamb of God, and each album there's the songs that you just listen to, which is it's like wow.
Which hopefully we'll still get more albums from him now he's not going to prison.
So, it's a great band. So it's like, trying to think of a bit more of a band that brings you surprise after surprise. Slipknot. This is probably the best thing to do with Slipknot. The best band for this is Slipknot, because every album sounds different.
Oh yeah, they constantly bring out good albums, and I wouldn't say there's a bit for everyone, because there isn't. Unless you like the sound, like the new metal sound, you're not gonna like them as much as you could other things. But no, they constantly bring out consistently great albums at the end of the day.
Which was surprising, because you got a band with a mixture of people. You got guys there, Sid, who is big into the techno side of things. So you've got a lot of techno backbeats. You've got one of probably the best drummers out there. You've got Sean Crayon, who's into all the weird...
Who doesn't really like the genre he's playing in.
No, he's more of a ska person, isn't he? He likes his weird alternative ska music, which is not a bad thing, depending on the band.
It just seems odd, being in the band you're in.
Corey Taylor freely admits that someday he wants to write a country album. He wants to do a country album.
He's got his fingers in all the pies.
So you've got a band there, and you can see in each album, even every song on the albums, you're getting something new and exciting. And that's for me is that's for me is when you get not just alternative music, which is what this podcast is about because it's what we both share the passion about. In any genre of music, that's the type of band, that's the type of music you want to see. You want to see something which is going to excite you in every different track.
Oh yeah. No, I completely agree with you there. There are certain bands where they're not always consistent, but they've always released good. Even if it's just like they've done an album, then they've released a load of shit, then they've released stuff. You never have to listen to the stuff you don't like. That's the great thing about music. You can always, there's that much out there. You can always choose to listen to what you enjoy.
It's like the Slipknot thing. You listen to take out the self-titled album. You had the kind of very schizophrenic songs like "Wait and Bleed," where there's the great thing, and "Eyeless" when all those great songs were very schizophrenic, and it goes, and there's different where you're getting actually the true emotion in his voice, in this kind of like when he's talking about he doesn't really. That means I'm nothing because I haven't got a father and all that type of stuff. And then you got like Spit It Out, which is this fast-paced song which is basically rapped.
Yeah.
And it's great. So that's we don't get that anymore. I can't tell the difference between any Paramore song. You could give me a list of 20 Paramore songs, and I couldn't tell you the difference between each one of them.
I only know like 2.
Could you tell the difference?
Yeah, probably. On them 2 I could, yeah. Because they do sound different.
Okay, you're not really disappointing my argument here. You're meant to be backing me up on here.
No, I'm not supposed to. Everyone can say what they want.
Okay, well that's basically the issue, and it's there's no continuity. And as we say this, one of the bands which just totally gone downhill, which is another thing. Sellouts, that's another bad thing. We have bands that start off great and have turned shit. Linkin Park.
Which one's theirs?
This is one of the ones that's slightly good, but it's off their Reanimation album. It's
which was just remixes at the end of the day.
Remixes of 1 or 2 new songs, I think. No, this is off Meteor. Anyway.
This might be on Minutes to Midnight.
No, it wasn't. This was on one of the first couples. Anyway, because you had Linkin Park, basically the band went about. To get the song that's playing, Linkin Park band went about. You had...
First 2 albums were just brilliant.
Meteora and Hyper Theory. Reanimation had a few good stuff on.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Reanimation was just a remix of the first 2 albums.
With, I think, 2 new tracks on it, I think.
Probably.
But anyway...
Depends if you probably got the special editions.
But anyway, the point is... Hyper Theory, for me, was one of the first albums I listened to get into I was already into rock by that point, but it was one of the first ones that got me into metal, alternative, the heavier stuff.
Good Charlotte.
Well, we'll return to that later. But my point is, the stuff was great. And then they just thought, okay, this is not selling them. And what's selling? Soft vocals, lighter music,
kind of more synthesized,
and nice songs with nice messages and fluffy rainbows and all that type of shit. And doing the soundtrack to Transformers.
So I wasn't a fan of the Transformers, so I had no idea about that.
Just off. So yeah, sellouts. That's another bad thing. We could probably write a list here of the worst sellouts, but
we'll cover virtually over the next however many of these we'll do.
But we'll probably both agree that Linkin Park is probably up there in the top.
Yeah, they're a band. Obviously, in our opinion, there are many people that still do like them, but they're one of them bands where they released 2 brilliant albums and they've never matched anything to the same quality and standard as them first 2 albums. Be it money, be it selling out, be it that they wanted just to become famous, but it does happen a lot of times that people change the way they are to make money. And at the end of the day, it's a mixture. At the end of the day, if you're not making money and doing what you're doing, it's kind of hard to carry it on. But the whole reason you should make music in the first place is purely down to passion, the enjoyment and the love of what you're doing. But if you can't afford to live doing it, that's the issue. There's an issue there. But
choice of selling out or
it's compromising. You always need to compromise, in a sense.
I would die for my art. Although I have none, so I don't need to die.
Yeah, we ain't no talented people. We just talk over this.
Okay, so I'm going to shut up for a bit. I'm going to put you without knowing in the hot seat first.
Okay, go for it.
And I'll randomly interject with questions. I want your introduction to the what we're calling, basically we're covering it by the generic term of alternative. So we're covering like the metal, punk, classic rock, and all basically that type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I have no idea what you're asking me to do here.
I want you to discuss your entry into it. What was the first things you listened to?
The first things I listened to.
Basically, your entry into it. We'll cover in the next few podcasts our favourite albums and
I get what you mean.
Things that we remember, particularly for being very bad and stuff like that. This one's a favourite introductory podcast, so you can type it as long as you want, or
what got it started.
Or what got it started. Again, we're going to cover our best favourite albums, but like the first couple albums which you listen to, and stuff like that. Basically, your entry into this wonderful realm of music and mayhem.
Right, as I say, the first album, which I quickly said before, the first album I ever bought was The Young and Hopeless, because it was in store at Woolworths in Worksop, Good Charlotte. It's generally alright, first album you listen to. I think I was year 7 at the time, so it was about that time. I'm not 100% sure when it came out. It was generally, there's a couple of songs on there that just I can't listen to anymore, just out of pure detest for it, but they were that's what got me in, the first stuff that got me into it. I started off, I listened to a lot of punk, I listened to stuff like that more than anything. I more got into metal, like the heavier stuff, as you say, the Slipknots, the System, Slayer, Slipknot. Pretty much everything was later, was talking sixth form time, so I was, by that time, 16.
It was me, wasn't it? We kind of did it together.
Pretty much together. From sixth form, we listened, we not changed, we shared ideas, pretty much, gave each other music. You should listen to this, listen to that, stop playing with the table, because I can see it picking up on this. And it was that, but it was, as I say, it was a lot of punk stuff. I'm a big fan of, I like pop punk, ska, punk, pretty much listen to anything. First lot with Dead Kennedys. I love the Dead Kennedys. They're a great band. I'd never really got on with Sex Pistols. I can listen to them, but I'm not a massive fan. I don't know why. So
let's like I said, I'm going to interject with questions. Let's start it back. You said your first album was
Young and the Hopeless.
Young and the Hopeless, which I think is a great. It is a great album. I still, unfortunately, I haven't got it at the moment. I will look to get it again. I think it's still a good album.
So overall good.
But
album.
What made you? There's got to be a bit of a story from that. That made you pick that album up. Of all the first ones to get into, what made you pick it up?
Album cover. It was purely the artwork on the front.
No recommendations. You just walked
past. No. I had a friend who probably listened to it a bit. His name Luke, who I went to school with. But other than that, no. I saw the album cover, the back and forth one, because the front of the front cover, kid in front of the TV on the back it's the look of them. They looked. I know we're coming back to an image thing, but it was that punk look. It was different. I was at one point very chavvy in my music taste. When I was younger, a lot of dance, a lot of thing, but I never really enjoyed it. It was just there because of the thing. And I think the first song I ever heard was, from an alternative thing. The first song I actually ever heard or willingly listened to was System's Vicinity, which it's just a really random. It's not even a good song, but.
City in your eyes.
Yeah, it's one of them songs. It's virtually a comedy song, but it's that, and then I got on more. I then moved over to a lot of like Franz Ferdinand, the Zootons, and I still do listen to these bands because they've released some really good early stuff. The later stuff isn't as good, and then it literally just moved on to a different type of music. Really, one that I've never had any, until I hit sixth form, I never really had anyone that listened to that kind of music. Never introduced it because I was one of them people. I just never had anyone there because I live with my nan and granddad. Sorry, I've got a call. I'm going to pass you over to you. You carry on with this, and I'll speak to you in a second.
He's got a call, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a slight break from his story, and I'm going to quickly mention the last album I would recommend from this genre, and like I said, I previously mentioned it. Stone Sour. I go and pick up their House of. 1 second while I check this. It's a great thing having your computer in front of you. You can always check things. Because I think it is called. Yeah, here we go. House of Golden Bones Part 1. And it's the first part of a concept album, which you can probably guess from the being Part 1. But it's a great album, lyrically great. It entices you in. There's a lot of things which you can connect with emotionally. But it's a great album. Listenable songs. You put it on the radio, it's catchy as anything. Great lines. And so it's just a really great album. Roy Mayorga, it's good to see you, Roy Mayorga, behind the kit again. I was worried after his stroke, but some good solos in this as well. James Root, he's put more solos into this, and you can really tell it's a bit more of a musical album. Not once a musical, as in, you know what I mean, we're Broadway, but it's more emphasis on the music as well as the lyrics this time, and I think it's a great all-round album. I prefer it to Come Whatever May because of that, bit more of it being a complete album, but again, it's great. And what the albums I would recommend are probably Gone Sovereign, Absolute. Basically, the first 4 tracks are probably 4 to 5 tracks are probably the best on the album. But now I'd go and recommend it. And my partner would be back in.
I'm back.
In now to continue his story
Got a glass
of getting into this and how he found acceptance from this music.
I just think it was one of them, as I say, one of them types of music when the community as well, the community of. It's not judging. You don't. Well, you do. You get a lot of judging when you see forums and stuff. When people are discussing it, you just like think. But there's some of the nicest people. They may look a bit metalheads and stuff like that. Look a bit out of place and a bit in your face. There's a lot of time the generic look of the long hair, kind of beards. You know, we're talking the proper metal look. But there's some of the nicest people. No one cares what other people looks like. You can.
Right, we're going back to sixth form. Do you remember the time we were listening to Iron Maiden albums almost in sync together, weren't we?
Iron Maiden was the first big metal thing I just got with.
Do you remember when we both came in and we said, "Oh, we just listened to Number of the Beast." We both listened to Number of the Beast album, and for that entire day we were singing Invaders.
Invaders, for me, it's a completely underrated track. It's just absolutely brilliant. And I want them to play it live when I see them in June, but it's never going to happen. But no, Number of the Beast, if anyone's never listened to it and you're into metal and you should have listened to this by this point, by anyone, just pick that album up regardless. It should cost you between £5 and £10, if that, because it's a fairly popular album, so you'd expect it to be a bit cheaper.
Yeah, because I will return and discuss this list at a later date. But if I was particularly the pure metal genre, if I was going to pass someone an album, like top 3 albums, or basically saying no 4 albums, and this is what this is metal. This is metal. That has to be on that list.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree with you. There's Number of the Beast. You give them Paranoid.
You give them Paranoid. Number of the Beast, Master of Puppets, and I personally would give them a Lamb of God album. Just pure.
Depends on how heavy you want to give them.
Sacrament. I would give them Sacrament. Well, probably not the best Lamb of God album, but it's one that most people know. And for me, it's just that. For me, with that the melodic depth and all the heavier side of metal, that's the album. That's anything on my Lamb of God for me.
Oh yeah, just listen to Lamb of God generally. It's
Anyway, we're going beyond the point. We need to go back to your story. Back to your story.
Waypoints. It's always a good thing to have a little waypoint.
It is, but back to your story. This first part. Album 1 has a point. It's a concept album.
I say, shouldn't that be issue 0? I'm joking, obviously. Yeah. From there, pretty much it spiraled, and as I say, it was just giving bands to each other. Listen to this. And I'm trying to think who the first... It has to be the first band I ever went to see was Iron Maiden, actually. It was an Iron Maiden gig supported by Lauren Harris to start with, and then Trivium. At that point, not a big fan of Trivium. I didn't think it was a great set, which I've heard... I saw them recently, and they were great, and then I was told not long after to 2 people who went to see them because of that gig, went to see them again, and they apparently just phoned it in, but... I don't know. I guess it depends on a night to night. But no, Iron Maiden first gig. That is the reason I'm saying I'm into metal. Would be Iron Maiden. Just listening to that and getting into it.
So a side note, because you talked about punk and metal, but there's one genre which I think you grew more attached to out of all these alternative genres is more than anything, which is one that I identify you with. And that is ska.
Ska.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a backstory as to our potential listeners of what attracts you to this genre.
It's just fun. You don't have to care about what it is, because when you get to the late you have the points where it's punk, you get your party punk, you get your political punk. A lot of ska, there is political ska out there, but a lot of it's not great. A lot of ska is have a good time, everything, but you don't have to. It's never offensive. It's never thing. It's just a good, fun music to listen to, and it's always light, breezy. I'm not a massive fan when it comes to the reggae sound of ska. It's just a bit too slow for me. I can listen to it in the background. Not a kind of music I can personally listen to live.
So in terms of artists, obviously we all know Madness is all something that is part of every kid's childhood. You always hear it as part on the TV, Our House and Baggy Trousers. Must Be Love and Baggy Trousers. We all listen to those at some point during our lives.
But childhood or anything as you grow up.
What was the couple of bands which you first opened the door and gave you this impression?
The bands I would say I'm going to give a couple of old ones, a couple of new ones, because that's why.
Okay.
The old ones we've already spoken Madness. You listen, if you go in old ones, you listen to the Specials, because they're just a brilliant band on their own. You'd listen to Bad Manners. I know these are the more popular ones. There are other ones out there. I'm blanking on names at the moment because I've been put on the spot, Will.
Less Than Jake. We both agree Less Than Jake.
Less Than Jake.
One of the very few bands from that genre that I listen to, because it's more punk than the other side to it.
And if you're going newer, the ones I would personally recommend are the ones that I would go back to over and over. You've got Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish, which they're just a great live band as well as recorded. I would say it's Streetlight Manifesto or a thing. They're extremely hard to get hold of. If you've listened to Catch-22 at all, it's the same band virtually. I'm trying to think now. It completely depends on what you want from ska music, pretty much.
Okay.
As I say, though, most of it is just fun, party, have a good time.
And they're the ones that pop out to you.
Just popped to my head. The ones, as I say, I've seen Real Big Fish 10 times, and I'd go again over and over because I enjoy that kind of music.
Okay. So I think it's got to me being on the spot now, isn't it?
Let's hear the intro to a backstory.
Intro to backstory. Mine. I'm probably going to make it a bit more convoluted because that's just that's
the way you are.
That's just the way I am. But again, I think I was slightly got into it into some of the more areas of metal and slightly not to say we've been pretty much at the same time, but I think I was slightly ahead when it came to some of the heavier stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree on
that. No, to go down it all the way back to the beginning, for a long time I didn't really used to listen to music as much. I was more out on the street kicking a football around, which is still good. I wouldn't decry that for anyone. No, but I had my parents who would buy me the odd albums. And then I would always for Christmas get the Now album. I think trying to remember some of the albums I got Will Smith's Millennium one year.
Is that the one with Switch?
That's the one with what? Kicking for Wild West.
Oh God, yeah. Okay.
Okay. I always liked Eminem. I still do to this day. There's something that you could connect with. They got a lot of teenage angst throughout the music. But no, again, you'd be surprised. I think the first thing, Top of the Pops really got me into some of these bands. This is going to surprise a few people. What part of our family thing has been? I know I wasn't really into music, but we used to spend like the evenings around the TV with the family, which is nice. Another thing, one thing we used to watch was Top of the Pops.
Oh yeah, that was a
Pops, which was
family staple, isn't it?
Well, back in the day, family out, and I think part of the reason why music's died these days is because you haven't got such a show on TV anymore.
So it's all X Factor and
we won't discuss that. But no, so I think Chili Pepper. I think the first song that came on is "How You Remind Me" by Nickelback, and I know a lot of people decry Nickelback, but I still love them. So yeah, they were Nickelback. So I've got the album Silver Side Up, and I listened to that. I must have listened to that every day for 2 months. Literally just came in, and I probably still could if you put the songs on. I know them word by word. But then things started to grow. I think I came across the Chili Peppers in the same way, flicking across, and they were on. My sister used to listen to music channels. I think it came across one day, so I started listening to By the Way album, and then Linkin Park, and things started to go like that. And then I came more alert to music, and my dad started was an ex DJ. He used to play stuff, so it was Pink Floyd and Queen and.
I can imagine your dad's have been a very big part of like your rock and roll side of things.
Yeah, the classic band stuff. So yeah, I love Pink Floyd. I love my progressive music. I need to listen to more, but it's hard to get. But it's progressive. So Pink Floyd, so all this stuff. So you just start exploring these things. You become once you anything new that you start to think I like this. You start thinking I need more. So you start delving into it. So I think the first three bands I'd say I listened to were Nickelback, Linkin Park, and Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then it just grew really, just adding. So it's like then you go for your soft but hard rock albums. So you had Aerosmiths and. Motorhead. The first gig I went to was Motorhead, supported by In Flames.
Really?
Which was pretty.
Seems a really weird support.
Which is pretty cool. It's an awesome gig though. So I went to that. And again, so you start listening to these bands, but and it just grew and you think, and then you're thinking in metal so large. So you start listening to a bit more Kerrang, and again, Kerrang's probably back in the day when it was good. Started playing stuff like Trivium and stuff off their Ascendancy album. So your Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation was my favourite off the album, but probably the first song I heard off the album was Pull Hard on the Strings of Your Martyr. Then I think I saw Good Charlotte's before then, but anyway, Good Charlotte's as well. But yeah, Trivium. Then you start listening to Iron Maiden. System of a Down, and bands like this, and it just grew and grew, really, giving things a go and just trying to absorb as much as possible. And for a long time, I took too much gravitas in the words of other people. Like I used to be an absolute hater of Slipknot and Metallica, but now I would class them as two of my favourite bands because you got to the stage where I was listening to so much, finding new things so much that I thought, well, someone's got to like them. So you give them a go because you would hear too much, and the local magazines you would start buying and stuff like that, and it just grew and grew and grew. I think the thing that I not going into too much detail, but the thing that attracts you to rock and then the heavy metal and stuff is not just the chance to rebel against what you seem to be the mundane, but it's the energy level. I think you can get out all the angst. In songs you can either get out all the angst, or just songs that just literally bring a smile to your face, and it's just the range of emotions you get in this music which sells you. And then you put on some tracks which you just can't help but just want to bang your head to.
Just want more of them at the end of the
more and more. But it's just it's brilliant. You just started delving into it. Again, so I think some of the genres I tend so as you went with you and Scar and stuff. I think the bands, some of the areas that I really got into more than you, I'd say, although you kind of might have leveled out now. Was I started listening to it more of the heavier stuff quite sooner.
Yeah.
Whereas you were still tempering your water with the Iron Maidens and the well-known stuff. I started tipping my feet in some of the heavier stuff earlier. So yeah, like I said, Lamb of God, Ascendancy, sort of listening to Arch Enemy, Machine Head. I started dipping my water in these toes, and again, just the raw energy, and cause I say this quite a lot, but when you're brought up where you have such, which I did, you had a lot of being brought up with a very difficult brother, which is not really a time or place to talk about it, but he was very.
It could be challenging.
It could be challenged. That's the word. It was challenging. So it built up a lot of angst and stuff, and it's just a great music. So you could maintain around people. You could maintain a level of decorum. You could keep you cool. And it was a way to release angst, and it still is to this day. And now I don't need to be angry to listen to it. I could just listen to it and accept it for what it is. Well, that's what drew it to me. It was this release that I could put on the album, and I could release all this energy that I had pent up, or I could put on an album, and after a shit day, and it just put a smile on my face, simply for escaping. That's probably the things nowadays. That tends to be what more like you put on progressive music to take you away. But no, it's just the whole genre for me is a close your, put on an album, listen, go to your bed, close your eyes, and let it just soak, and it could take out all the angst you had. And
just forget the weight of the world for that little bit of time and just enjoy.
So that's what it was for me. It was released, and then like I said, it was great to finally meet someone who were at the same, about the same level as me as the entry into this music, and then you discuss and it just grew and grew. And you get part of this it's culture. You're part of this community as such. It's just probably more the right word for it, where you could dress the way you want, act the way you want. You could just go in, start listening to a band and just talking.
Oh yeah,
that's it. But yeah, but I think for me it was the ability to release and escape.
I always find that it's just with this kind of genre of music as well, you just don't feel like it's been pushed in your face.
No.
It's not to that point where it's just like, if you don't listen to this, you're going to be not segregated, but it's not the in thing at the moment, so you should if it is the in thing, you should be listening to it. Yeah, it's like you can just listen, and if you don't like it, you can just virtually tell someone to piss off at the end of the day, and it's nice.
But I think again, it's the thing that's totally different type of genre. Wherever the genre is, so you must be listening to the next thing. I think part of the excitement about listening to this genre was you would go away and you would read your magazines, you would listen to interviews, and then you would find this new band. The excitement of finding something new, which not many people would know, but you think would know eventually, and finding the new thing. It's
just hopefully find something before it became.
Or probably, I'm not saying we wanted to listen to them simply because we could tell people, oh,
look, I'm different.
Look, I'm different, and I listened to them first. It was just an excitement to find something new, which brought these emotions and another talking point with these new friends you found. That type of, like, for example, with us, I remember finding Blue October.
Which, just such a good band.
I remember finding them. I don't know. I think again it was just skimming through some music channels and it being on one of them. But I remember listening to that and listening to I think the song "Hate Me," which I know is a very depressing song. It's a very depressing song, but I thought for me the lyrics was brilliant, and it, I won't say brought a tear to my eye, but it was you got very emotional about it just listening to it. And I just remember taking it to you in sixth form and just going, you
listen to this.
You need to listen to this. It's 6 minutes, but you'll need to listen to this. And you're not telling me that's one of the best lyrics there is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That album as a whole, even the Foiled album, it's just a brilliant album, and everything they release just seems to be absolutely fantastic as a band.
The best song I think I later found is The End, which again we're probably going to talk about when we cover these albums a bit more detail. But in the end, where it's basically it's in a monologue talking about how he's breaking into his ex-wife's or his wife that he's going through a divorce with house, and confronting her
and a new lover,
and eventually killing them all. I know it sounds very grim, but you listen to it and just
it's just a great.
During a Jewish devil, nice.
I am as well. I never even thought about that as I'm doing it. I have drawn a Jewish devil.
Self-portrait.
I think it's all this talk of Mel and Satan is taking over.
Yeah, so that's actually job. No, but see, so that's our enjoyment for this. That's really covered, I think, for our. Well, Guns N' Roses, that's another band, one of the first bands I listened to, the Greatest Hits, which is still... Anyway, yeah. It's distracting having...
TV on in the background.
And then Guns N' Roses come on, and he draws a Jewish devil with no hands.
Oh yeah, there is no hands on it. He doesn't need hands, he's got magical powers.
Okay.
He's the devil.
So I think that's kind of our mission statement that we've kind of sent out there for... The reason why we wanted to do this, we wanted to try and sick of being over too many of this new shit being pumped into our faces, and we want to try and remember what we loved about this music and why we
got into it,
why we still do.
Yeah, why we listen to it still to this day, and obviously over the next few things we're going to be picking specific bands, maybe specific albums to talk about on what the ones we really pretty much, I would say, defined what we've listened to.
Define what we listened to. So I think we can now initially we can set we can set the order of business for the second one. I think we need to talk about in detail the first, should we say, first album or the first two albums that stuck out forever in our...
Stuck, yeah, not listened to, but actually stuck and will...
For me, it's still probably the first album I listened to.
I would possibly say, if we both pretty much pick our top 3 albums...
Oh, see, that's difficult. Honestly, that's why I say the first couple of them might be easy, because then we can just discount it to chronological order or time order.
I think you should make it harder, because it will make for better thing. Top 3 albums. You don't have to say them now. Obviously, you bring them with you to the
top 3 albums. That's a difficult one.
Just don't be a pussy about it.
Oh, this is going to be difficult. I'm going to be moving on over this for...
over the next week or two, or however long it takes to record the next one. But yeah, as I say, it'll be stuff like that.
Top 5. We say 5 at least.
We'll go with top 5. As I say, it should give us
best album from the different genres as such.
If we spend 5-10 minutes on each one, it works out at an hour and a half, probably maximum, if we went through them. It depends how much you've got to speak about them at the end of the day.
And probably some of the bands we're going to come to one was because you don't like Nickelback.
I'm not a Nickelback fan at all. It's his voice. It's always voice.
It's his voice, and he's probably going to pick some Scar, which like Real Big Fish, which I'm going to go.
He doesn't like.
So, but it'll be fun. The debate. This is the whole purpose of this debate and laughs. I think you never know. At some point, the voice in the background will eventually decide to become a voice that you can actually recognise and join in and try and be the defence of some of these bands that we're probably going to rip into majority of this time. I think we've done well to not do as much as that.
Yeah, we've voiced an opinion without being too offensive to the Scottish. I don't know. I just had to from the last thing we spoke about. So.
Biffy Clyro and their shit. That's not.
As I say, previous albums.
Puzzles. Anything post puzzles.
I like the second album. I can't remember the next one. I can't remember what it's called though.
Anyway, so that's our objective. We hope you enjoy. Or if we anger you, maybe good. Maybe you will take this anger and go, do you know what? Fuck 'em. I'm gonna do my own podcast. Or do you know what? I don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to give some of these bands they're talking about a listen and think of things in a new way. If we've done any of that, great. If not, peace out.
All we ask pretty much, if you're going to offend us or pretty much tell us, listen to them beforehand. Don't just insult us for the sake of it. That's all I ask.
Or just expect the... although you can't actually see this, or just expect the Jewish devil to come visiting.
The Jewish devil will come after you. I have no idea why I've put the Star of David.
It's like a cat with no hands.
Yeah, it's. I have no idea why that's like that. But as I say, yeah.
And again, if you're Jewish, we're not going to offend you because he's Jewish. So,
yeah, I'm Jewish. But yeah, we're gonna have a YouTube channel up with everything from this podcast. We do a comic podcast.
So from next week or the next time we sit down and do this, we'll do a random one on funny news stories.
So,
and we're going to make sure on at least one of those podcasts we'll have the wise words of Emma in to try and add to fill the female quota.
It is. This is just a giant sausage fest
of our channel, because otherwise you've got no one to think she sounds hot or he sounds. You got no one to think she sounds hot. So we need a female in on this. We need to fill the quota and get rid of too much sausage.
I do like sausage, but not like that.
We need some lettuce.
We need some lettuce. Lovely scent.
And I'll let you try and figure out why I said lettuce.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good night from us, and also I'm going to be making a Twitter account because I live on Twitter these days instead of Facebook. It'll be most likely something like @MW Music Podcast, just because it's a running trend. Add us, comment, as we say, YouTube channel. All details will get posted because I'm sad, and we'll keep updating. Peace out.